slowly roll, trying to make it home. Doing it by my lonesome, pissed off through my son. I'm fighting for my soul. God, get at your boy. You try to hold God for.
I'm gonna miss hearing that intro.
Trying to make it home. Doing it by my lonesome, pissed off through my son.
My favorite TV show of the last 20 years. Addicted to it. It's called Justified. Last episode was last night. I have not seen the last episode because, as I told you, it's my wife's 47th birthday, and so we had a late baseball game, and then we did some celebrating. So we saved it, and we have made a date night of it tonight. And we are both excited that after we put the kids to bed tonight, we will watch the last episode of our favorite TV show, Justified. One of the stars of that show is Nick Searcy. There may be a more conservative friend of Abe. There may be a more conservative member, resident, practitioner in Hollywood, but there's not a more successful conservative in Hollywood, and he is unabashed. Nick Searcy. He's been in Fried Green Tomatoes, Castaway, The Fugitive, Moneyball. He's been in TV shows American Gothic, From the Earth to the Moon, CSI, and so many more. He is probably the most immodest person I've ever met in my life, and I love him for it. Nick Searcy.
Michael, how are you?
All right. Well, how are you? I know you're jet lagged from your flight back from Japan. How are you holding up? Did you just get up for us? It's 7 o'clock there.
I woke up. I don't know whether I'm coming or going. I woke up about 5:30 after going to bed about 2 o'clock.
Ooh. Did you have?
I don't know.
Did you have a good time in Japan?
Oh, we had a blast.
You vacationed
great.
in Japan?
Yeah, the whole family went. Me and my wife and my 2 kids. And
who vacations in Japan?
Well, the way it happened was that my wife has been studying dance with a Japanese dance teacher out here who's a very kind of revered and famous dance teacher named Hama, and he's from Japan, and he went with us. And so we sort of had our own kind of personal tour guide.
He only has one name?
He only needs one name.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, he does have 2 names, but he goes by Hama. It's sort of like Luigi in New York, who just passed away.
I didn't know if I should feel bad when you said his name and I didn't know it, so I thought I'd make light of the matter.
Well, you'd almost have to be a dancer, Michael. Right. I mean, if you were, you would know it.
Which, as you know, I am not.
Yeah. Well, see, I am, and that's why.
Right. You're a man of many talents. You have the acting school and a fancy house and a heated pool and the whole deal. All right, so you can't ruin it for our many listeners that did not get a chance last night. They were doing their taxes, or as in my case, we were celebrating Nandita's birthday, so I won't get to see it till tonight. So we're not going to ruin it. But let me ask you now that, you've been – when did y'all wrap up filming for Justified? A couple months ago?
Yeah, kind of like the end of February, yeah.
You posted for you, a very sentimental tweet of you and Timothy Oliphant, who plays, of course, Raylan Givens, and something to the effect of, I'm going to miss you, buddy, or something like that.
Yeah. Well, Tim and I have become friends over the years, and really, I told him when I saw him at the last party, I said, for a guy like me that's basically made a living playing second bananas, you're the best first banana I've ever acted with.
Is that true?
Yeah, it's really true in so many ways. I just think he's such a great person, and as well as a really, really dedicated, generous actor. He's always the first one there and the last to leave. He works with everybody just as hard as from the one-day walk-on part to Sam Elliott. He worked with everybody just the same way, just as hard all the time. And he's just the best I've ever really worked with,
His name,
enjoyed him very much.
His name, when you read the credits, occupies many positions. And I know sometimes that is the way that a show pays respect to a guy. It's almost like another form of compensation. But to what extent is he really directing and producing and doing? How much of a role did he have outside of doing his lines and playing his part?
Well, he had quite a bit of input into storylines and into, character arcs and decisions. And he really fought for that. He didn't start out that way in the first season, and he really, agitated to get more input. He wanted to have a say in how the show went. And he was really valuable in that regard. I mean, he was really faithful to Elmore Leonard's work and really steeped himself in it. And usually, he had some great ideas, and I would sort of use him as a conduit. When I had a good idea, I'd run it by him first and make him present it to the gang.
Let me ask you, is that the first film you worked with Sam Elliott on?
Yeah, that was the first time we ever worked together. He was great. He was so gracious to me when I first met him. He said, "Nick, how is it that we haven't worked together in all these years?" I'm like, "You got to be kidding me, Sam. You're one of my heroes." And he says, "Well, I sure have enjoyed your work over the years."
Wow.
He was he was a great guy. I mean, we had a ball.
Did you tell him you cried in that scene in Roadhouse where Patrick Swayze comes in and he's got the dagger through the middle of his belly? You remember
No,
that?
I didn't tell him that.
I think I did.
I was ashamed to tell Sam Elliott that I'd ever cried in my life.
Well, that's a good point. Whose bright idea was it to have him shave the mustache?
Well, I don't know. We didn't talk about it. I was afraid to bring it up. So.
It was awkward. It was really awkward.
I didn't want to go, "What's up? What's up, Sam? Why'd you shave?"
My dad wore a beard my entire life. And then one day DuPont, the plant where he was working, made him shave it all off. And we'd never seen my dad's raw skin, on his cheek and his upper lip. And it was, it was unnerving, for a little while. And I couldn't help but just, study the top of Sam Elliott's lip after all these roles. You never saw it.
Yeah, no, I've heard that before. Yeah, a lot of people were kind of disturbed by his lack of a mustache.
But it made his character. It took him out of being. It took the Sam Elliott out of it, which was good. The Avery Markham character, in my opinion, was a great. It wasn't Wynn Duffy, but it was a great addition to the season. Nick, I know you got a number of things going on in your career, but can we just geek out on Justified for about 5 minutes?
Oh, sure.
Tell me the moment in the script writing where y'all all gathered together and you looked at it and said, "Oh, I'm not sure that's going to work. I don't believe Ava would shoot Boyd," or you name it. What was that moment?
Well, let's see. There was a lot of discussion back and forth about, how the series would end and who should shoot who, and it was back and forth. There were many, many different theories that were put forward by many different people. And since you haven't seen it, I can't tell you what decision was made.
No, but that's all right. But before that, I mean, there were 6 seasons. There were a lot of things there were characters that were killed off that maybe could have hung around for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the most shocking one, I think, was, of course, Max Bennett at the end of season 2 when her character was killed off. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
It's just such a massively interesting character and so popular, and it was really quite a shock to everybody. I think even to Margot Martindale. They gave her the script and said, "You know what, this is it." But yeah, killing her off, I think, was a very big. It was shocking to me.
Well, but I think things like that are necessary as a fan of the show to make it. I mean, there's some punch to that. Whoa, they're not playing around. They're not just dragging this thing out.
No, that's true, and it gives a real tension to the show. I think, much like in Game of Thrones, in season 1 when they killed off Sean Bean, it's sort of like, wow, okay, that was the lead guy. You just killed him. So yeah.
Is there as much sexual tension on the set as there is when people at home are watching Ava Crowder? Her character is what, Ramon? That's a fair question. That was a good question. Sorry, go ahead, Nick.
Well, there's a lot of sexual tension between Tim and I, but that's mostly his fault.
You can't blame the fella. You're a dashing man.
Right. I mean, people look up to me in so many ways. But the thing about Joelle is, Joel and I did a movie together before Justified in 2006, I believe. So I've known Joel for a long time.
Oh, you told me about this. This is the guy that's out like in Montana, out on his own.
He's in the woods in North Carolina.
North Carolina. That's close to Montana, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's called Cold Storage, and this kind of retarded fellow or intellectually challenged fellow that lives in a cabin in the woods finds a dead body on the side of the road, and a dead girl who's killed in a car accident, and takes it home with him and makes her his girlfriend.
Mm.
In a very platonic way. It's very pure. But anyway, Joel plays the dead girl's sister, who's kind of coming and looking for her. And so basically, it's a long story. The dead girl ends up cheating on me with some other intellectually challenged hillbilly in the next cabin over, so I don't like her anymore. So then when Joel shows up, I kind of like want to make her my new girlfriend. She talks too much, and I like them really still. So, I'm trying to kill her. It's quite a movie.
It sounds like it. I was reading a review by a guy named Adam Epstein at Quartz.com, and it says, "A eulogy for Justified, the most underappreciated drama of our time." Pretty strong comments. Do you feel like Justified did not get its due? Because for me, I've never understood why it's not the number one show on TV, and I'm not just saying that because I'm talking to you. I say that to anybody who will listen.
Yeah, I don't know either. I do agree that it hasn't gotten the credit that it deserves, and I think part of that is just because the subject matter is not sexy to kind of voting Academy members on either coast, because it's about the middle of the country. It's about a bunch of rednecks, and I think, in some ways that contributes to it. I mean, they're more inclined to give awards to kind of the more urban kind of sexier shows, with nice costumes like Mad Men and stuff.
Yeah, you're probably right. Let's talk about you, Nick Searcy. There's an interview, The Telegraph. It just went up today, and it talks about you and your politics, and they quote you as saying, bullies on the left, they want to call you names and categorize you and make you respond. They want to make you say, why are you saying that? I'm not that. So when Breitbart passed away, you talked about when Andrew died, so suddenly I just sort of had this moment where I asked myself, why am I scared? Why am I letting these people do this to me? Now I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty. That article is actually kind of a good article about me. It's pretty fair. I don't like the headline.
It's not fair. It's glowing. Somebody's a huge fan of you. Well, I don't think that person who wrote the headline, because the headline is "Justified Finale is Nick Searcy, Hollywood's angriest conservative," and then it goes on to just absolutely love you.
Right, yeah, but I'm not angry. I mean, everybody always thinks I'm angry on Twitter. I'm not. I'm laughing my head off most of the time.
Well, they talk about your tiff with Sean Penn, and I love this. It says, Searcy worked with Sean Penn on the 2004 film The Assassination of Richard Nixon, and they appeared to have got on well despite having diametrically opposed political views. All that changed, however, when a journalist writing about conservatives in Hollywood asked Searcy what it was like working with liberal Sean Penn. His email reply, which he insists was nothing but complimentary, was forwarded to Penn. Sean Penn sent Searcy a furious email of his own, and to cut a long story short, Searcy ended up telling the actor, quote, "Congratulations on your Oscar. Now do me a favor and shine it up real nice and stick it up your ass so you can see it when you wake up in the morning, because that's where your head is."
Yeah, that was a little extreme. But, I mean, I had knew Sean a little bit, and he'd almost cast me in a movie that he directed, and then, and then I wound up working with him in that movie, and we'd always gotten along. We'd never talked about politics. I mean, because usually, back then, and even now, I mean, when I go to a set, I'm not there to debate somebody on Crossfire. Right. I didn't come to get in a fight. We're here to make a movie. Let's stick with that, And
you realize you make yourself sound very old referencing Crossfire.
That's true. That's true. Everybody 25 years old is going, what the hell's Crossfire?
And that too, they brought it back, ill-fated. They brought it back a few years ago, and but the one with Buckley was actually good TV.
Firing Line.
Oh,
yeah.
he was Firing Line. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh, see, you are old. I was too young. I was a mere child when all that was happening.
Right.
There was a big news story recently about a movie that has not even begun, but his involvement in it brought, I think you would use the term gravitas, Nick, to the project.
Yeah.
About Dr. Kermit Gosnell. And whether you are pro-choice or pro-life, whatever your position on abortion, what this guy did is so beyond the pale. He is serving a life sentence for his awful misdeeds, and it's all facts. This isn't the pro-life community dreaming this stuff up or making it up. It's all there in the investigation. It's all public information. Nick, why are you involved with this project?
Well, the producers, I've known them for a long time, and when they said they were going to raise the money, I kind of got involved, and I helped them. I did some promo videos and went on the Bill O'Reilly show and talked about it. And when they got the money and said they were going to make the film, they asked me if I knew any directors, and I gave them a couple of names that I thought, recommended a couple of people. And they didn't work out for whatever reason, and then they came back to me, and I said, well, I directed a film myself a few years ago. You want to see it? And I showed it to them. And so, they looked at that, and we talked about what they were interested in doing with the movie, and they ended up deciding that I was the man for the job. And, I haven't directed in a few years, except for my acting school videos, of course.
Right.
Which
Yes.
But it's just a story that, that people are afraid to tell. And I'm kind of attracted to stories like that. I like stories that are challenging and that are not the usual thing. And also, I have my own personal views on this, which, led me to want to direct the material too.
So where is that? I know I read the story about, I think it was Indiegogo, and y'all had raised about $2.5 million, and that was back in March. Where is that project?
Well, we're
That's
kind of
probably just your
finalizing our
fee,
shooting.
right? That's all just your fee, and the rest goes to production.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have to go in and raise more money after they pay me.
Right, exactly.
We've only got a few bucks left to make the movie as it is now. But we're hoping to go into pre-production in June and shoot in July. That's pretty ambitious, but that was what we're trying to do. We're finalizing the shooting script right now and starting to hire people like line producers and things like that, putting together, putting the movie together is like building a little army. So that's what we're doing now.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's all engrossing. I mean, when I decided that I was going to do this, the first thing I had to do was talk to Leslie about it and go, look, do you think it's going to be okay if I just kind of disappear for like 3 months? Because that's really what it's going to be. Even if I'm home, I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be thinking about this 24 hours a day for at least 3 months. And can you manage without me? And she said, yeah, we've been married almost 29 years. I'm about sick of you anyway. So go ahead.
Yeah, go away. The lovely lady, by the way, who plays your wife real life, or who plays your wife on screen as the wife of Art Mullen, who was angry at Raylan when you got shot, and is in the car with him when they're on the way to the hospital, which is cool because I guess she's an actor. She was an actress herself.
Yeah, we met in a play in New York. We got together, and we were both struggling actors in New York, and she kind of got to the point where she was sick of it before I was, and she decided, she was going to become a exercise physiologist, and she went back to graduate school, and then all of a sudden I started getting work, which she said she's always told everybody she was never counting on me actually having a career. So
she fell in love with you despite that.
Yeah, well, I always tell her, you knew I was going to be rich and famous, didn't you? And she's like, no, I never thought you'd work at all. But
let's talk about that film, because I think that this is I mean, obviously you've thought this through, but it would seem to me, and you tell me, that there is an additional pressure when you make a movie that has a built-in audience that wants to see it and has a built-in audience that wants to see it fail. It would seem to me there's a lot more pressure in sort of, I wouldn't call it an advocacy movie, but there's an increasing number of these. God is Not Dead, and Dinesh D'Souza did a few of these. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I feel a responsibility. Plus, I mean, this movie was crowdfunded. Almost 20,000 people donated. So, you know, there's a lot of people, maybe 30,000. I may have that figure wrong, but a lot of people literally are invested in seeing this movie and seeing it done well. And so, yeah, I do feel the pressure of that. But I also want to make a movie that's not necessarily a sermon. You know, I don't want to immediately drive away people who might be affected in a way that they weren't expecting when they see it. So, you know, I want to tell the truth about what happened and let people make of it what they will. You know, you can be whatever spectrum on the political scale you want, pro-life, pro-choice, whatever. There's value in this for you, in facing what happens here with this man and why it was allowed to happen. No matter what side of the issue you're on, you should be concerned about that.
Do you take Nick Searcy as our guest? Do you take extra pride in the fact that you don't just read lines and go home to your heated swimming pool, but that you have put yourself into the public fray in the marketplace of ideas and battle with people?
Well, you know, it's just me. It's just who I am. You know, I've always kind of been that way. I've always been sort of a smart aleck, and you know, I've always wanted to engage people on that level. And you know, it's just after with Andrew Breitbart. I keep going back to Andrew because he's really an inspiration to a lot of people out here. But just sort of, I was never really even that aware that there was such a bias against conservatives in Hollywood. You know, I didn't think about it. My career started in North Carolina, and there it wasn't such a big deal. Some actors were Republicans and some were Democrats. You didn't think anything about it, you know. And then when I got here, and by the time I figured out that it was a big deal if you were a Republican, it was too late, and I'd already told everybody. So when Andrew kind of passed away, I just thought, you know, I'm not going to act like I'm ashamed of what I think anymore. You know, it's ridiculous. It's people ought to be able to deal with the fact that I have a different opinion than they do about certain things, and if
Nick,
they can't, then
I'm sorry, but I am against a break. We need to have you back out to Houston soon. We appreciate you. Keep being you.
Love you, Michael.
All right,
Thanks for having me.
Take care.
You've got the Michael Berry Show.